Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Eat and Live Naturally, where today I'm going to talk about life expectancy. What determines how long we live? How long are we supposed to live? Look, everybody's interested in the subject. We all want to know what our number is, right? We are. Well, some of us may not, but it's important to know like how that's determined, and we're gonna look at a few things to really break that down. But first and foremost, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button in your lower right hand corner so you can get updates of every time I do go live. If you are interested in natural health and the natural diet, this is definitely the place to be. All my people on Facebook, what's going on? Hit me up with the comment, give me a thumbs up, an emoji or something. And if you're watching our replay, hit me with that hashtag replay. I like to be interactive, so if you do want to comment or have some examples or questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'll see them as they come up. But before we get into this, I got to throw a disclaimer out there. I am not a medical professional. I am not a doctor. I am a natural health and diet coach, and I'm merely sharing my experiences through the research that I've done, as well as the philosophies that I apply in my daily life. But look, I'm excited. Let's get to it. Really, really excited to talk about life expectancy, right? So, when we think of how long we're supposed to live, we kind of take our information to what we see in society. And, roughly right now, I think it's like somewhere in the mid 70s in the United States. That's life expectancy. Going to live to, 70, 75. And if you live past that, man, you're really pushing the envelope, right? That's kind of where our mind is. That's kind of what we've been conditioned to think. And look, there's a lot of data that shows that our life expectancy has continually increased, and that is true. If you're looking in the short period of time of this century, if you look at the beginning, I shouldn't say this century, but last century, right? 21st century. If you go all the way back to like 1890, the average person lived till 45, right? So that's a big difference. And we have made a lot of different advances, specifically in, sanitation, right? So infant mortality has continuously gotten better, in the past 120 years. So definitely some great things that have been done that has allowed us to prosper. And we've also had the population boom and a bunch of different things, right? But when it really comes down to it, it starts with like, how long are we supposed to live? Right? How long is man and woman supposed to be? Like, what is our maximum? Right? What is the goal? What is the gold standard? Well, let's get into that a little bit. So, actually, start this over. If you look at kind of where science tells us this starts, as you're going through all my slides, you're getting everything. But research right now, from a few different sources here, but I utilized this one. It was just the easiest and the best visual. Research is claiming that humans can live up to 150 years, right? Now think about that for a second, because we started off this live talking about what we see in society and kind of what we feel as we grow up and see in our reality. And that is that the average person lives to about 75, right? But science is telling us that we can live up to 150. Well, that's 50% more life. 50% more life. So what determines that? What is the determining factors for us to possibly live 150 years? Now, when I bring this topic up, because I talk, me and the Queen, we talk all the time about, man, we want to live to at least 150, right? And people look at us like we're crazy. Like, why would you want to live that long? Well, that's where the conditioning aspect comes into place, because when people think of elderly people, when they think of old people, anything over, the age of 90 or 100, they're visualizing the individual as they are, not understanding that to live to 150, you have to live a certain type of way. And you're not going to be in that shape if you're living to 150. And that's a big aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, well, everybody else is going to be gone. Everyone else will be dead, right? So what's the point of me living that long? Well, that's where you have to break that conditioning as well and understand that what you do is going to affect and have a ripple effect on everything that happens around you. Starts with you, then to your spouse or the closest people to you, your family, then your friends, and that continues out. It's got to start somewhere. We can't just default to, you know what? Well, everybody else is living to 75, so I'm only going to live to 75 because I don't want to live without everybody else, right? That's just kind of, it's a paradox in a way, but it's also backwards thinking. So with research saying we can live to 150, let's just use that today as the barometer of the maximum, right? 150. Use that as the maximum. So what determines how long we actually do live? So I'm going to break it down as simple as possible. I look at everybody like they have their own personal battery pack. And everybody's battery pack has a different capacity, right? A different amount of vital energy. Because at the end of the day, we're electrical beings. Energy is what ultimately allows us to exist. And without it, we will not exist. So starting from there, understand that you were born with a battery pack with a certain capacity. Now, what determines that capacity? Well, the first thing starts with your lineage, your genetics, and what I like to call your disposition. Because remember, you are a reflection. You are a carbon copy of the cellular makeup of your parents at the time of conception. And from that moment, also while, growing within your mother's womb and the environment that your mother created for you in that womb are the determining factors of what that number is for you, right? And unfortunately, we're just in such a bad place as a species for a lot of different factors that I'm going to get into, that coming out of the womb, that 150, right, that maximum is going to be knocked down a lot of notches. A lot of notches. Whether it's genetics of, bad kidneys or bad lungs or a weak pancreas or, bad eyesight, whatever. We're all, it seems like we're all born with something, some disposition because of years and years and years of just tearing our bodies up from a lineage standpoint. Some people like to say that's adaptation, but it's negative adaptation. Remember, if we look at, regardless of what you believe, whether it's religious or whether it's scientific, right? However this world was created, it started somewhere and everything else has been a replica per se of that, especially the human species, because we are the most, in my opinion, the most egotistic of all species and have tried to outsmart nature. So that's what puts us where we are. So if we start there, right? We start there and know that coming out the womb, you are a product of your parents, their parents, their parents, their parents down the line, plus the environment that was created within your mother's womb. You're starting already playing from behind, just plain and simple. Right. So then, you come out the womb, you got the stress of that. You've got, nowadays, so many different vaccinations, whatever the case may be, just adding on to that burden. Right. So then you have environmental issues. Right. So, your 150 probably got knocked to, let's say, 120. Right? Now, I shouldn't say that. Well, probably, if you think about it, from all the years of, let's just say 120. So now you got knocked down to 120. And now you have to deal with environmental factors. A lot of things that are out of your control, but the air that we breathe on a constant basis, right? That is constantly polluting us, whether that be, emissions or whatever the case may be, right? The air today is definitely not as clean as, say, it was 500 years ago, and definitely not 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, right? So you're dealing with those factors. So that's going to obviously knock you down a few notches. Then you have electricity. I know I promote this book all the time, The Invisible Rainbow. It's fantastic. Talks about the electricity's role in mankind and health and whatnot, but there's more electricity on this planet right now than there has ever been. And we are electrical beings, and there is a conflict there, right? There is more radiation constantly on this earth than there has ever been. I mean, we have phones to our ears and phones all around us and this signal and that signal and electronics and everything going on. And it's only getting bigger, bigger, bigger and more powerful and more prevalent in society. So now you're dealing with that. So that's going to knock you down some notches as well, right? Stress. Stress is so impactful to the longevity of your life because stress has a domino effect. Stress is going to impact everything you do in your life, from your eating to the way you're feeling, to the way you're acting, to the energy that you emit. All those different things come into play when it comes to stress. And the world that we live in today is just, it is built to keep you in stress mode. From the rat race of just trying to stay on top of bills. I mean, look at the economy right now, right? Just the stress of being able to pay your mortgage, to pay your auto insurance, to pay your homeowner's insurance, to pay for food at the grocery store is a tremendous burden that you're putting on yourself. And your physical body is going to be a reflection of that stress. Those things are going to impact you, and that is going to hurt you in the longevity of your life, right? So all these things, they're just knocking you down notches and notches and notches. And that's why it's so important to put things in place to counteract that. Because remember, just because we're knocking notches down off your maximum does not mean you can't bring them back up. Remember that. There's a counteract to everything. Everything is duality. There's a balance in this universe that you just have to be able to tap into. We're going to get into all of that. Sunlight. We need sunlight. Sunlight is vital. Sunlight is, sunlight, moonlight, nature. And we are not in nature enough. Through migration and just customs. And if just people want to say evolution, to me, it's not evolution, right? Through just centuries and centuries and centuries, we have gotten away from nature further and further and further away, right? Through migration, we had to live in houses like we live in now. We're so used to air conditioning and things of that nature, right? But we have lost our symbiotic connection with nature. It's another thing that helps us. Just the concept of grounding ourselves. I mean, look at the shoes that we wear. We wear rubber-soled shoes. That blocks the connection with the earth. That's all by design. And once again, that knocks our notches down when it comes to reaching that maximum number of life expectancy for ourselves, right? We put sunscreen all over ourselves, blocking the sun. The one thing that nature provides us that revitalizes us, and we block it. And of course, food, right? And you knew it was going to come to food. And this is the most impactful thing that contributes to the demise of us as a people, especially when it comes to life expectancy. And there's no debate about it, because when we talked about genetics and we talked about lineage, this is where it stems from, because we have become such a diseased nation. I can't speak to every country, but other countries, they're dealing with it too. But I can speak to this country. And through generation after generation for thousands of years, we have gotten so far away from the human specified diet that our bodies have just been beaten up for generations. And our kids, us, we're the ones that are paying the price, because we're born with severe dispositions. We're born with ailments. And we're also taught that these ailments are just, hey, it just kind of is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. But that's not true. Because once again, everything is balanced. We can regenerate. Our cells regenerate. We just have to give it the proper fuel to do so. And this time, when the cells do regenerate, they're going to regenerate as healthy cells. And it's going to build healthy tissue. And we can reverse it. We can break these generational curses. People ask me all the time, why do I do this? Why do I come on here and go live? Why do I talk about this stuff? Why do I do coaching? It ain't the money. It's literally like I am focused on breaking generational curses. Starts with my family, and I'm doing that. But I want to help you. I want to spark, if I spark one person and they make a change in their family, and then that changes it for their kids and then their grandkids and then so on and so forth, and we reverse it, now humanity is better. Because food is the most impactful thing when it comes to your life expectancy. I mean, look what most people die from. The number one cause of death is heart disease, and it's been heart disease for the past 100 years. As long as they've been recording it, heart disease has been number one. Number one. And what is the biggest contributing factor to heart disease? Food. Right? Like these things, it can be that simple, guys. It can be that simple. So when you think about your life and like how you want to live, and if you want to add years onto your life, this is the first place you have to look. Because all the other stuff we talked about, number one, you can't change what happened in the past. You can't change, the way your parents ate. You can't change the way your grandparents ate. You can't change any of that, right? You can't really change the air that you breathe. You can try to put some things in place, but ultimately, like, you're kind of subjected to it, right? You can minimize the amount of electricity around you, but in today's society, it's damn near impossible to minimize all electricity or the majority of electricity, right? So these are things you just have to eat, right? You just have to deal with it. But the one thing that you actually can change 100% is what you put in your body. Because, and let me break it down for everybody and why this is so important. Because look, that screen I put up there with the battery pack, that's your vital energy. And your body utilizes vital energy to do some amazing things by healing itself. So when it's dealing with something, dealing with inflammation, whatever the case may be, or new toxins come in through the air, or the EMFs from electronics, all those other things that you can't really control, or the dispositions you're born with, your body is going to utilize that vital energy to heal itself. Just like when you cut yourself, it heals itself. You don't need Neosporin. You don't need to put any ointments on it. You need to let your body do what it does. Let it heal you. But when you eat like this, what's on the screen right now, you're putting so much burden on your body through the digestive process, which is the most taxing process the body goes through, bar none, unless we're talking childbirth or if we're talking, a major surgery. Right? This is the most taxing by far. So when you ease that burden by feeding your body the things that it's naturally built to eat, to where it does not have to go through this massive digestive process. And the reason it has to go through the digestive process is because what you're putting in your body is foreign to it. Your body's on alert, alarm. Like when they talk to you about viruses and, once a virus comes, your body goes on alert and automatically starts to fight it. It's the same concept. When you eat this hamburger, this chicken, this pizza, this fries, these Pringles and this bacon and hot dog with mustard, your body goes on alert just like that. And then it has to go through this massive digestive process to try to convert this shit into something useful. And that takes a lot of energy out that battery pack. It does not provide it a lot of energy in return. Remember, And I say this a lot, energy returned on energy invested. If you're not investing in energy, you're not going to receive it in return. And that's in every aspect of life. It's that balance, once again. So that's why it's so important that you're eating the right things, that you're conscious of what you're eating and putting in your mouth. Because this right here is going to have the biggest impact on that number we talked about. Well, let's keep it moving. And here's the battery pack, right? You know, we all want to be in that first spot. And you see it just continuously dwindle down, and we see the evolving of people as they get older. And some people, you know, age better than others, some age worse than others. And what are those factors, right? Some people can't walk at a certain age and they just lose a lot of flexibility and things of that nature. Those things are mainly diet related. Because think about this. I talk about hydration a lot because hydration is what keeps us moving. It keeps us flowing. It represents the flow within us. But when we become dehydrated from eating a lot of dehydrating foods, from grains and oats and wheat and beans and meats and breads, all those things are dehydrating foods. And if that's the main source of your diet for years and years and years and years, well, then the body is going to reflect that because it is massively dehydrated. And when you're dehydrated and you can't move and your body, it's like your body, and specifically if you eat a lot of salts, because a lot of those foods I mentioned are kind of synonymous with salt. Salt is either in them or a part of them, or you add it to your diet. And then your body starts to petrify, literally turn into stone. So when you look at this battery pack, think of how much energy your body has to utilize just to move. You are draining your vital energy. You are draining that battery pack, and you are cutting down years. So I want to talk about the Hunza culture, okay, and the Blue Zone. I don't know if anybody of you guys have watched the Blue Zone documentary that's on Netflix, really interesting stuff. But talking about the Hunza culture in northern mountainous region of Pakistan are isolated from the rest of the modern world. Their diets consist of mostly raw fruits, vegetables, and pure water. They do occasionally eat a little bit of meat, occasionally. But their lifespan averages 120 years. 120 years, okay? Average. That means a lot of people are exceeding it, and some people are not, are not getting there. But 120 average. America right now, we're at, like I said, about 76 average. High vitality regardless of age. Women continue to give birth and be fertile well into their 60s. Think about that. Predominantly disease-free. I read an article from an individual who spent a year in the Hunza culture and did not find one case of cancer, did not find one case of diabetes in the entire culture. Think about that for a second. Strong community and spirituality. They live off the earth. They are one with the earth. They're breathing clean air because they're elevated. Like they are completely isolated from the rest of the modern world. A lot of those things that I listed, they have been able to avoid. And the beauty of it is they're not coming to the modern world. They are staying within themselves. Therefore, their lineage, their continued offspring, their future doesn't have to deal with the burden that our forefathers and our parents and our grandparents gave us. They've cracked the code. They understand it. Now, we as a society have to figure out how can we take some of that and apply it. Now, that's a great segue to the Blue Zone centenarians. The Blue Zone regions are home to some of the oldest and healthiest people in the world. Although their lifestyles differ slightly, they mostly eat a plant-based diet, exercise regularly, drink moderate amounts of alcohol, get enough sleep, and have good spiritual, family, and social networks. Okay. And the blue zones, they go through different spots across the planet that have the highest amount of centenarians. Centenarians live into their hundreds at a rate 10 times higher than the rest of society. And a lot of the cultures that they go through in that documentary share similar attributes. They all, for the most part, compared to typical society in America, they eat really well. They're close knit. They're kind of isolated from the rest of the modern world, things of that nature, and it shows. They're able to age better. They're way more active, and ultimately end up living longer. It doesn't have to be that difficult. One of the things I didn't jump into too much was exercise, and that's so important as well because you have to keep your body moving. It's great to be hydrated and flowing, but muscles are simple. Like if you use them, they'll continue to work. If you don't, they won't. So it's like, move it or lose it. that type of thing. So that's a huge aspect of it as well. So you implement these things into your life and you start to see the changes because we can be the Hunza culture. We can create our own blue zones. Why can't we? Like we have the ability to do that. But I'm telling you, number one, it's going to start with the diet. We have to let go of this concept that we have to conform to what our parents did and their parents did and what we see on TV and all the propaganda. Like we have to be able to do that. So Li Ching-wen lived to 256 years old. Now, some people will say this isn't documented. You can't find any records of it. Maybe it's a myth, whatever the case may be. But supposedly this man lived to 256 years old. He lived off the earth. He was big into herbs and ultimately being one with the earth. That was his thing. And he found a peace in that and supposedly was able to live 256 years, right? So we started the show with, hey, look, 150 the maximum. And that's just what, quote unquote, science is saying right now. But to me, honestly, I don't think there's a limit. And I'm gonna tell you this why. And this is just my own personal philosophy. Because if we are built of cells, and cells, die off and regenerate, and we're providing ourselves proper diets, the proper fuel, the proper oxygen, then we should be able to regenerate fully because everything on our body, our skin, our tissues, everything breaks down to cells. So if we're constantly regenerating them, then there shouldn't be a limit to how far we can actually go. Now, the problem is that kind of what we talked about earlier, everything that's working against us. But if we were able to create something like a Hunza culture and maybe even take it a step further, then who knows how long we could live. So I don't think we should ever put limits on that because look, from a consciousness level, I feel like we are at a different level than most species in nature. And some may say there's, maybe it's reversed. Maybe there's a beautiful, there is a beautifulness, but maybe the elevation in consciousness is to be more like a turtle, to where you can just be. You don't have the constant stresses of life and society to where you have all these conscious choices. You just live and you just be. And that's a debate for another show. But the main thing I'm getting at is that us, as I feel, are higher conscious beings, like we have the ability to take it as far as we want to go. If you look at spiritual, different spiritual cultures or even religious cultures, they speak of people living for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? In Buddhist culture, some even said 20,000 years. And Not to say that any of that's true. That's not where I'm getting at. What I'm trying to say is that let's not put limits on how long we can do this, because we know what's killing us. And now we're starting to know what's bringing us life. Remember, it's that duality. It's that balance. It's half and half. So when we get to the diet, and this seems to be a huge thing now. People think there's a vegan agenda and this, that, and the other. And there's a difference. Look, I keep it very simple, to whether you're a vegan or a meat eater. Processed food it will always, from a health standpoint, always be worse than anything. So there's no vegan agenda, right? There's no vegan agenda at all. This is just based on raw facts that vegans live on average 7.8 years longer than omnivores, right? That's facts. Think about your life. Think about your family. Think about the things you love to do. And think about the fact that just by changing your diet, you're adding 8 years. And that's just vegan. That's not even getting into raw vegan. That's just vegan. You're almost adding a decade to your life. You're adding vitality to your life. And look, there's a lot of unhealthy vegans out there, so let's not get it twisted. But most people who go vegan, a lot comes along with it. There's a mindfulness aspect. There's a consciousness aspect that comes along with it. And I say this when I talk about why I made the change to a more conscious, healthy diet when I became vegetarian initially, was I felt that if I wanted to connect more spiritually, I was going to have to give up the consuming of conscious creatures. And that is a transformation that some people aren't ready to make in this lifetime, and that's okay. But if you are thinking about it, understand that there's going to be so much more that comes along with just changing the diet. It's a lifestyle change. And I think that contributes a lot to the longevity as well. We talked about stress earlier, right? The counteract to stress is meditation. Because stress is all about here. It's all about what's going on here. And meditation allows you to separate yourself from that, to quiet the mind, to control what comes in, to put up the boundaries you need to do, and to connect to your higher self and to connect to your spirit team and be able to come up with new ideas to get you out of stressful situations. So it's the whole gamut that goes along with all of this. But just understand that, understand what you're doing to yourself and how much you value your life and how much your family values your life and how much you value their life. If you could get 8 more years, would you take it? Think about it. And if you look, right, just completely across the board, if everyone became vegetarian by 2050, food-related emissions would drop by 60%. That right there, helping nature, helping the air that you breathe, helping the atmosphere, all of it. Right there. Worldwide vegetarianism by 2050 would lead to a global mortality reduction by up to 10%. Now people are living longer. Now more people are living. Some research has linked vegan diets with low blood pressure and cholesterol and lower rates of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and some types of cancer. You can eat a totally plant-based diet that supports excellent health whilst helping animals and protecting the planet. Look, if you look at the top things that kill people, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, right? All terrain-based, all diet-based. People will say, well, it was genetics. Well, how did it become genetics? Did the creator just one day say, you know what, I'm going to build some people here that have, good blood pressure, but these people over here, I'm going to give them low blood pressure. And then these people over here, I'm going to give them some strong kidneys. These people here, I'm going to give them some weak kidneys. And this person, I'm going to give diabetes and blah, blah. No, we all started from one place. And through years and years and years of beating up our bodies, by consuming the wrong stuff. We've developed this dis-ease, these diseases within the body. Yeah. Vegans tend to have better vision and less macular degeneration. Man, I need to start seeing some of the benefits of that. But I will say this, since I went fruit dominant, my eyes have gotten better each year. Not enough to where I can't wear glasses. But look, remember, everything you put in, energy return on energy invested, you know, it took you a while to get here. It's going to take you some time to get back to where you need to be. But yeah. And then let's see here, an omnivore, 50% more likely to develop heart disease. A lacto-ovo-vegetarian, 15% more likely to develop heart disease. And a vegan is 4% likely to develop heart disease. So it's there for you. The data is there for you. And it comes down to those conscious choices. And it comes down to, do I want to live a longer, more prosperous life? Do I want to have vitality? Do I want to add years onto my life? Do I want to get to that maximum number? Right? Because this is what it comes down to, everybody. This is you. As you get into the twilight of your life, right? They say midlife crisis like 35, 40 years old now. What? What? No, it's not. That's conditioning for your mind. Okay? We can make it to 150. Let's make it to 150. But think of all the things that are in your way that are trying to bring you down. And how are you going to counteract them? Because once you get to each one of these plateaus, it matters even more. Once you get to the after 40, roughly around 40, like, everything you do matters, because you were playing from behind from the jump, as I displayed at since the beginning of this live. You've been playing from behind. You've been playing catch up this entire time. The question is, how big is the hole that you've already dug, and are you willing to get out of it? Are you just going to submit to kind of what you've done? How much energy do you have left in your battery pack? And do you want to add to that energy? Exercise, mindfulness, and most importantly, getting good sleep, getting out in nature, being around people, being around like-minded people, being around people that are on the same frequency and also are there for the betterment of you, that bring value to your life. When I talk about removing toxicity from your life, it's not just poisons and foods, it's also people. It's energy. And most important, your diet. Most important. Eat living foods. Wherever you're at right now, wherever you're at, you could have the worst diet in the world. Doesn't matter. From this point forward, make incremental changes. And you will see incremental changes. You will add to that battery pack instead of taking away from it. And you're going to extend your life, the most precious thing that you have, right? You might be on pace to hit 80. Let's go for 90. Think of how much that 10 years is going to mean to your family, to your spouse. Think of the impact you can have. I do appreciate you guys all watching this one. If you're watching on replay, definitely hit me with that hashtag replay. Also, give me a thumbs up. I need some thumbs up from y'all. Let me know that you guys are feeling what I'm saying, that you guys are this is resonating with you. And I do appreciate all of it. I'm going to be out of pocket for the next couple of weeks, because I'm gonna be out of town for the next couple of weeks. But I will be back with another episode of Eat and Live Naturally. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button in your lower right-hand corner. And until next time, peace, love, and light, everybody.